Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the United African Alliance YouTube channel. So you can actually use this opportunity to subscribe on the channel to be able to know when we are subsequently going to be posting a video or posting whatever updates within the channel. So it's a pleasure having you, and it's an honor to have you as an African, as a non-African, as a global citizen being a part and parcel of the channel. So it's a pleasure having you. So we are broadcasting this live to you so that you would be informed, most especially on what the alliance is doing and what it aspires to do for the African people, and not just for the African people, but the impact it wish or is actually, investing her effort on to, affect the world globally. So we are going to be discussing the 7 pillars of the United African Alliance. Now, these 7 pillars of the United African Alliance are the 7 core or 7 key main areas in which the alliance focuses on in order to bring about advancement in Africa, and not just advancement in Africa, and in order to promote trade relationship between Africa and other non-African countries. This would promote intertrade between Africans, and it would also promote good standard trade relationship between Africa and non-African countries. So we have different key areas within the 7 pillars of the United African Alliance here, which includes the Education and Research Unit, the Agriculture and Water Resource Unit. We have the Diplomacy and Policy Making Unit here. But actually, the term was changed from unit to arm of recent. So instead of using unit, we are going to be adopting arm in as most of the other subsequent pages in this presentation. So we have the business and entrepreneurship arm, we have the information and technology arm, we have the health and pharmaceutical arms, we have the climate change, disaster and emergency support arm. So these include the 7 core or 7 key main areas in which the United African Alliance would be focusing our effort in order to promote African unity and in order to promote the advancement and the growth of Africans. So firstly, we discuss the first unit, which is the business and entrepreneurship arm. Here we intend on partnering with key agencies and key organizations in different countries that makes trade possible within Africa. And by partnering with these key agencies, this is to enable us facilitate trade efficiently within these countries. So we partner with these agencies, we partner with companies, we partners with CEOs and people and brands of different types in Africa as a collective African organization in order to be able to implant businesses across different or all of the 54 countries in Africa. So we promote businesses, we promote young people into getting into businesses, and then by doing this we would be able to make most of our citizens and most people who are getting into businesses in Africa to think global, not just thinking global, thinking continentally, like what service they now know that okay, whatever service they are producing or whatever thing they can produce, they can actually step up the scale of production in order, or step up their scale of production in order to sell to other countries and to sell to nearby countries. So the organization makes it easier for these individuals by partnering with these individuals to be able to make sure that trade is that accessible. So through the key agencies and through our different offices, we facilitate trade across different countries. So this is one of our strategy of integrating Africa. And we also partner with individuals. Our organization is not a racist organization. So it's an organization that welcomes in people of all skin colors into our groups. So we welcome people of all skin colors who are going to contribute or who are going to be part and parcel of what we do. So this is what those who are non-Africans are expected to do or to play within the organization. Some of them would come in as businessmen. Some of them will come in as supportive arm of the humanitarian works we are going to be doing. So they work with us as for, in the aspect of bringing business people and in the aspect of bringing people who are interested in conducting businesses on that a fair principle with the African people. So I repeat, the fair principle. These people, they are going to be conducting business in Africa, following the African laws and following the core basic principles that guides business operation within Africa. And then we move to the conferences within this aspect. So we would be having two types of conferences here. We have the cohort program. The cohort program is for young entrepreneurs who are coming up in the field of entrepreneurship within Africa, and those interested in implanting businesses in Africa. So we bring them together. We have this conference together with them and teach them the basic ethics of what it means and what it takes to do business in Africa, and then integrate them fully into the teams of young people. And people not necessarily don't necessarily need to just be young before you do business, so you can still be old. But for young stars in the aspect of business and in the aspect of doing businesses in Africa, we would educate them through the cohort program. And then the conference programs, or the business people's conference, is strategically directed towards investors and already established business people, where we would discuss future partnership and discuss future businesses and business possibilities that are out there in different countries, and how we can collaborate together in order to establish a unanimous or an integrated businesses as Africans and as global citizens. So another aspect here is in the aspect of diplomacy and governance. So first of all, we want to solve a key issue here, because we find people getting into government, or people running into politics and so on and so forth, and most of these people do not know anything about what it means to run a government. So we are not coming as a political organization or any of such. We are coming in as an organization that intends to work closely together with the government, to work closely together with different institutions, by making sure that we encourage young people, we encourage recent graduates, we encourage people in different professions to invest their best in the advancement of their government. So what are you doing? What are you doing to contribute to standard welfare or medical treatment within your government as a medical doctor? So what are you doing as an engineer to promote the engineering process in your country? So what are you doing? So we bring on that aspect of country patriotism into play here as an organization. We encourage young people to move into the government, to support the government in whatever strategy or with whatever skills they have in order to promote the government. And we would also be encouraging the that African histories and leadership histories within Africa should be taught in our countries, even from the grassroots level, so as to make sure that young people within Africa catch up the fire of improving their countries at an early stage. So we would work with key organizations like the African Union, with the African Continental Free Trade Areas, and different policy making and ECOSOCs and different other policy making organizations, even the United Nations, in order to be able to advance and bring about growth and standardization in Africa. Thank you. And then we move to the other area. The diplomacy area would also be featured with conferences, just as the other areas. So the conference for young people who just want to begin a career within the aspect of promoting or driving policies within their countries, and for people who are already within the process. So we work together with these people to provide a legal education to the people on how to efficiently serve and promote the government, and how to make their economy better than the way it is. So we move over to the next slide. So the next slide is the education and research unit. I made mention of teaching African history and teaching African leadership, celebrating our heroes as Africans. So in our education curriculum, which has not been a part of our educational curriculum for quite some times now. So African history is meant to be taught from primary school level even to the secondary school level, depending on what it is being called in your country. So we want to promote that through our education unit. So we want to promote education, and we want to make sure that we increase the literacy rates within Africa as much as possible, and that people are not just going to school, but people are going to school and they are coming out with the skills needed to impact or to insert changes on the world globally. People are not just going to school as if it's a different aspect of works, but there is this collaboration or this unionism between going to school and the achievement or the attainment of the type of dreams you want to, attain as a young African. So this area would also be featured with conferences. So we would also have our annual conferences here. So it will be featured by conferences within the education unit or the education arm. So it will be featured by with conferences, and then the conferences will be in both in two ways. We have the conferences for experts in the field of education and future investors in the education unit, and organizations and other key agencies that wants to support the education unit. So we talk on how we can work together as an organization to be able to support those education aspects within Africa, and also partnering with other key individuals, seeing some of the standard changes we can attain or can insert in these countries. Then we have the technology and the innovation unit or innovation arm. So basically, we want to promote the tech companies coming over to Africa and seeing to how we can work closely in utilizing some of the raw materials that are being embedded here in Africa into raising future tech giants, tech companies that would be able to compete globally with other existing tech firms within the continent. So we would also be advocating for support within the technology and innovation within each and every government, seeing how technology can fully spread within Africa, and how this technology could be used to solve the different problems within Africa, and minimizing the importation of most of these technologies from different continents, but seeing how the technologies that are being manufactured or being created within Africa could be used among Africans, thereby cutting off some level of cost, and thereby also turning Africa into a production continent for every African and for the world at large. Also making Africa a source of export for technological goods and technological products. And then we also intend on partnering with key other existing tech organizations or tech giants that are out there. So we bring them in and we discuss the future of how we can work together collaboratively in setting up tech companies in Africa. Not just the tech companies that comes in to sell their products, but how we can set up factories and manufacturing plants within the tech sectors within Africa. So we would also be having conferences here too, annual conferences here, which would still talk about the tech units. I mean, we should still be talking about how these investors can come into Africa, and conferences or cohort programs intended to teach few tech skills, and how tech skills are to be marketed within Africa, and how tech skills are to be grown, and on how tech can also end up dominating Africa. So in the right way and in the right in the proper usage of tech within Africa. So those are some of the key areas within the tech unit we would be functioning at, especially within the conference or the global tech programs. Then we have the agricultural and water resource arm. The agricultural and water resource arm is majorly made or created to promote food security in Africa, in making sure that agriculture is a part and parcel of the investment in which we are doing in Africa. So we are promoting agriculture by collaborating, setting up and building standard farms across different places in different countries, and seeing to how these farms could be used in order to promote patronage within the countries and within among Africans. So there's no need of rice being directly being imported from China when we can produce it and we can sell it among ourselves here in Africa. So we want to make those trades possible and those trades easily accessible, sales of African goods and promotion of farming and educating people, making sure people are farming educatively. They are farming not just with the mindset of farming for just local consumption, but promoting commercial farming and large scale farming within the continent. So just like other key areas, we would also be hosting conferences in the aspect of training young people who just wish to venture into these areas, who wants to go global or wants to sell their products in want to sell their product or extend their extend their agricultural businesses across different African countries, and would and finally would be having the larger conference, which would be intended for investors, key investors who want to invest largely within the agricultural setting. And then one of the key areas I omitted is the water resource unit. So some places have difficulties in finding or having standard or good drinking water. The organization also wants to feature this through our agricultural and water resource arm in providing water and setting up such projects across different countries in promoting or making clean water accessible for all Africans, and in making sure that we would work alongside in making water available in desert prone areas or desert areas or droughted areas within different countries to promote agricultural or to initiate or encourage agricultural practices even in such areas. Finally, we no not finally we have the health and the pharmaceutical arm. The health and the pharmaceutical arm is to promote indigenous usage of African-based medicine, not just African-based medicine, but want to also encourage the spread of pharmaceutical industries and pharmaceutical firms and establishment of indigenous pharmaceutical companies in Africa to also meet up the market demands in Africa at a more affordable rate for the African people, thereby creating more space for employment within the countries. Because if most of these areas we have covered here are fully implemented, you would definitely find out that the numbers of jobs would also increase if these areas are being worked on, because professionals wouldn't necessarily have to travel out of the country to be able to use their skills to serve efficiently at another person's country. They would now be using it in their country to serve their country, to promote growth in their country. So here we intend to dive into medicine and healthcare and see how we can make the best out of it within the African communities and within different countries in Africa, locating and creating chains of businesses within the health and pharmaceutical sectors within Africa. So here we would also be hosting conferences, just like in other key areas within the organization. We have conferences for young people who are just getting into the profession, or people who want to go global within the profession and they know nothing about it. And then we also have conferences, which is a major conference for people who have had some level of establishment within the profession, probably at a country level. We'll now discuss continental opportunities and how to enlarge globally by connecting together and investing in health and pharmaceuticals across different countries in Africa. And here we also partner with a lot of key organizations, even outside Africa, who are experts in building and bringing in their industries into Africa. These industries should come in and they should majorly be focused in doing manufacturing. The manufacturing should be done in Africa. The manufacturing and the whole processing should be done in Africa, and it should be distributed to the African market, and not necessarily just placing Africa at the consuming edge of it. So we intend on advising most of our investors to come in to begin the production activities within Africa. So those are some of the key external or international relations we would be having outside Africa with most of the key investors that would be coming to Africa. So we have the climate change and disaster management and support arm, which is actually the last arm within the organization here. So the disaster and climate change arm is meant to come up as a very strong humanitarian aspect that would support Africa when disasters or some sort of climate change or natural disasters have come up within any country in Africa. As an organization, we had come up with this unity plan to be able to integrate ourselves and work together to be able to tackle these problems collectively, issues of flood, issues of earthquake, issues of this of drought and so on, starvation and so on. So we work together as a continent with local NGOs and with other international communities to be able to impact changes within this area. So, ladies and gentlemen, we would also be having conferences within this aspect in order to promote the advancement of our vision. So, we would also hold a cohort programs and standard conference for people who have been within the areas grossly to discuss future challenges within these areas and how we can work together in creating a durable solution to these problems. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a matter of conclusion, let's journey towards building this vision together as we impute our best of commitment and cooperation towards building a better humanity through our alliance. Not just building a better humanity, but building a great Africa, an Africa that is a center of trade, an Africa that would be a good ground for each and everybody to do business with, for both the blacks and the whites, for people of all skin colors. So it's a pleasure having each and every one of you listen to this. And we look forward to working with you collaboratively and impacting the deep and the great changes we have yearned for within Africa. Thank you.